Hello, welcome to the Global Nerdz podcast where we talk about all things from comics to movies to films and everything in between. Sometimes some pop culture stuff. But we got a special interview today going on with one of our guys here. Y'all know him as Bat in the Sun, Mr. Aaron, and the whole crew is here. So we're gonna clarify some things for you, clear up a lot of stuff that's been going on online. We got the tea. Got your tea? I got mine. Let's get started. Here we go. What's up, y'all? How's it going, man?
Hello.
Hey everyone.
What it do?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was a dry intro, but I got my tea.
That's
Hopefully y'all got y'all tea with
Flashiness.
yours.
flashy.
There we go. But thank you for taking the time out of the day here, Mr. Aaron, being here so we could talk, clarify some things, because of course a lot of chatter been going on the past few days online and the past few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's start with a little bit of why we're even here today. If you want to take it from there.
I just I know that it's funny as I post things. I'm not really. It's kind of weird. I don't really consider myself such a social media person. In a way, I work and then I post things. Like I don't even know how Twitter works. And basically I post some things online that and I have a tendency to, when I post things, I reread them, but I'm not the best at making sure that everything's correct. And then like 2 days went by, and then my a Power Ranger messaged me and was like, "You should check Twitter." And I was like, "I don't really check Twitter." And then but I have Twitter though, and then I kind of like read all the stuff, and I was like, "Oh man!" And then I was like, "Okay." But I know people get really heated online, and words get kind of taken out of context, or people have fandoms or celebrity worship or whatever that it kind of ruffles them. And my intention was not to do that, but that's why I was like, I also don't know how much of the shockwave that went out on it. So I was like, I think I just talk. I like talking way better. Like when people text me, like if you text me more than 2 sentences, I just call you. So I was like, this is silly. So I like talking better. It's why I go live a lot on my YouTube and my Instagram, just to like talk. And those have never set off any chain reaction. So that's why. And I saw your guys' clip, who said a lot of nice things about me. And I was like, I got to message them, because I was like, I hope I can talk to them. But here I am, and ask all the questions you want. Everything is an open book, whatever you want to know.
Cool. I'm glad you said that, because we did say a lot of shit, especially myself, because I was like, fuck this dude, like this is trash.
And that's about how I took it too. Like, I'm sorry. Am I reading this correctly? Am I still asleep?
It's definitely like online perception. And again, like I said, when you write some things, it can definitely be misconstrued or misperceived a certain way. But I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get into the first question there. Like, based off of JDF being part of this project, Legend of the White Dragon, and it's pretty much his last legacy thing, like the last thing he acted in professionally, okay? And the film was supposed to have been out, obviously, before he passed, and then when that happens, I understand the setback. But from my perspective and the outside looking in, it was like, dude, every time something goes on, it's like you milking this death, okay, for the project. And I do know a lot of companies do that professionally, but it was like, damn, he really just using this dude death to promote this show. Like, people gonna show up. It's JDL. We know he passed. We're gonna see it. It's not needed. So, what was your intention with that?
You mean when I talk about Jason's passing?
Yes, it's like every second there's something going on with it. It's like, well, JDF did this, or he wanted that, sort of a thing. It's kind of like you're using him to promote or to push whatever conversation or narrative you want. You're using his death as that catalyst.
Well, okay. I think that's maybe 2 questions. Let's see if I can answer that. One, why I post so much about JDF's passing, and maybe people don't realize this or they don't know. But me and Jason were super close. Me and Tony were his best friends. So it wasn't that I lost just a business partner. I lost someone that I literally talked to every day of my life. And that's why it's very sad. And so, I worked with Jason for over 10 years. We talked every day about everything personal and business. And the White Dragon film is kind of an interesting the project is interesting because when I'm editing the film every day, so I see him every day. So in a weird way, it's like he hasn't passed in my life because I see him all the time. And really, when the movie's over, is kind of when I'll say goodbye to him. So I'm always in this state of it's a little emotional, like when you see your friend all the time and you see, you're going through all the takes and all the dailies and stuff. So I post about him a lot because I just really miss him a lot. That's why I post about his passing a lot. And it's like not a business thing. It's just a friendship thing. As far as the other question about JDF, what he wrote or what he wanted, there are things that Jason wanted known, and he wanted people to know that. And that's why I just let people know the truth. I think also, and this isn't really, I think the question you asked, but why would I stick up or try to, defend Jason or his vision or what he wanted? And it's just because there are, and I know I get called this as far as milking and clout writing, which is kind of the opposite, but Jason, when he was alive, a lot of people took advantage of him, and there's a lot of things that went on behind the scenes that a lot of fans didn't see, and they and they have this one perception of what was shown to the world versus what was happening. And Jason's mental state was affected by this a lot. It's not the sole cause of what happened, obviously. That would be wrong to say that, but Jason was taken advantage of a lot by a lot of different people and companies, and I feel that it made him feel sometimes. I mean, in public, he's very positive, and everyone was shocked. And there's even like conspiracy theories to say that he was murdered or his wife did something to Tammy, which is all silly. None of that's true. None of that's true. I mean, he battled mental illness. If you watch his poetry online, he talks about it. He talks about suicide. He talks about all that sort of stuff. White Dragon deals a lot with that. People will be surprised how much of Jason's actual mental psychosis or mental state is represented in the film. And Jason was pretty good about living his truth through his art. I think sometimes he had a hard time living his truth in real life. But it's like they say, give a man a mask and he'll tell you the truth. And a lot of people took advantage of him. And when you commit suicide, it's because of one of the reasons, because of lack of self-worth. And over those 10 years, I saw people chipping away at him. So as his friend, when I possibly see someone clout writing or when I see someone trying to, move in on his stuff, it's very, very frustrating. Which fans would be like, Aaron, that's what you're doing. And I go, but not really, because, I'm just so close with Jason and his family. And it's like, I want to just protect him and people to know the truth. And the thing that really frustrates me, this one gets me the most, is I hate seeing people or companies celebrated that contributed to Jason's mental state or frustration. That I don't like that. I'm a big fan of like justice and knowing the score, which is why it's ironic when people accuse me of that. That's why I was like, oh, let me see if I can explain some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question, but if there are questions within what I said, please ask. I'm here to answer anything.
See, for me personally, because I've watched some of your live streams and I've seen like most of your content quite recently. It kind of feels that when you come out and say something, that it feels like, because obviously JDF is not here, it feels sometimes that you're putting words in his mouth. Where, let's take this whole Amy Jo Johnson thing that's quite recent, where the fandom in a whole will say, right, Amy Jo Johnson and Jason David Frank were quite close, best friends or something, and it's the perception that they've got. But then when I see stuff that you put in like, oh, they weren't the closest, that's far from it, it feels like to me that you're trying to break down what he had. Because, as I said, like some people might be like, oh, well, like they were best friends, like they spoke every other day or whatever, or every single day. And then when you see their interactions and photos and stuff, but when I just hear you say, yeah, they weren't close at all, far from it, it kind of breaks that illusion. And it does feel like you're putting words in his mouth or saying, this is what he really thought.
I mean, I can definitely understand. I mean, people, there's celebrity worship, and people like to think that these people are close and so forth, and then you find out like, oh, they weren't. Um, I mean, like, um, I've never met Amy, just for the record, and I don't want to come on here and trash everyone, so I probably won't elaborate. I'll try not to elaborate too much on that because I don't really want to bash anyone. They were not the closest, and they were friends. Obviously, I'm not saying they weren't friends. That would be silly to say that. They were friends, but when you say, "Oh, they're close," I'm like, they did not talk all the time. Jason was nice to her, of course. I know Jason was very, very frustrated with her a lot, which I won't reveal those details because it would be, I think, insultive to Amy, which I don't want to do. But when I said what I said, though, is that because I basically was talking about, I said that Jason pitched this idea about his daughter being the Green Ranger, and it really actually was kind of funny. And none of that was directed at Amy at all. It actually was directed at Boom, because their checkered past and shady past of what's happened with things that we pitched that have ended up there and taken our names off of and blah blah blah, which I can prove all that. But that was more directed at like, oh, is Boom trying to do this again? And then they were like, Amy would never do that. Amy was his best friend, and I was like, well, they weren't best friends. It wasn't so much to diminish their relationship. It was just them using that information to counter what I was saying, and I was like, oh, they're not best friends. That's more of what that was. You know what I'm saying? None of that makes sense. But people really reacted, and they're like, he's like, you've only known Jason for 10 years. They've known Amy for 30. Like, how could you be? I was like, oh, well. I mean, I was like, I can give you examples and cite things. Like, everything that I'm saying, I can also prove. And just for the record, I will say this about a lot of things that I've saying is that me and Jason talked every day, and Jason was a big audio voice sender of on his phone. That's all he did. Everyone knows that they knew him. So everything I'm saying, I have audio of Jason saying all this.
I mean, I get it. I mean, obviously, if you got the receipts, that's fine. I think because now we're in this day and age where if you turn around and say something, so again, like when you went you pitched stuff at Boom, it's like, okay, well, do you have evidence of this? Like, people can say, oh, I've got receipts, I've got like thousands of these emails or pictures or whatever. But then we want to kind of see them. Like, we don't want the personal information. Like, if you went up to Boom and they were like, oh yeah, we want this. As long as we can say, oh yeah, you were there. All right, cool. You pitched this idea. Great.
I agree. What's kind of funny is that I've seen a lot of people being like, let Jason speak for himself. And I talked with Tammy and Jenna and Francis. And because I've spoken out about it. And really, I actually don't like online drama, even though I end up getting into some fit with this situation. And I compiled just 3 minutes of Jason talking about all of it on an audio clip, which I sent to Francis, and I say, just post it online. Just post it online, and then just be done with it. Because then everyone's like, I'll be like, I don't want to speak for Jason. Let Jason speak for Jason, and we're done. And you hear Jason's voice talk about everything, and I'm like, there you go. Take the man's words for what you want. I delivered what he wanted.
I hear that, and I get it, and I understand it. But at the same time, now I'm sitting in a part of the camp where we get that you want someone to speak for themselves, but at the same time, do you want a ghost to speak for, these situations that they're no longer part of, or, whatever the situation may be? Wouldn't it be best then just to put out the project and let his work speak for what it was, and we don't have to necessarily have the insight to he wasn't really friends with who or this or that, or his project, was it received by this company here? Like, we don't really need to know all that or really care about it. Couldn't it have just been the best point is to just put out the project and let that be it?
What I would say to that, and I understand what you're saying, because sometimes it's just don't make waves and just let people believe what they want to believe. Be like the Dark Knight at the end of I killed those people. I did this, I did that. Covering for two.
Okay, plug. Go ahead. I ain't mad at it.
But what I would say though is on the audio and Jason's wishes. I'm not playing audio of him per se just talking poorly or telling truths about people. In the audio, Jason specifies that I want people to know this. I want this gone. I want this character removed from the internet. Stuff like that. So these are actually, this is his wishes, not just airing out audio messages that I have of his. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, no dirty laundry.
Where like Lord Dragon?
Yes.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
this is another thing that I was kind of thinking of, because again, with the way that you turn and say like, oh, he wanted Lord Draken gone from the internet, he hated that character, but that I know obviously that the JDF put on this like facade, said like, yeah, I love Draken, he's the best type thing, and you see it with everyone. But when obviously he's not here to say, yeah, I want him scrubbed from the internet, it's very hard. And when I kind of hear it, I'm like, there are fans out there that absolutely love the character. It's weird how this is the evil version of Tommy, the pure evil. And then suddenly it's just like, yeah, he hated him and he wants him gone. But JDF's never said that. And I can understand that he won't, because obviously he's there for the fans. But then all of a sudden after his passing, it's like, yeah, he hated them. So I can see now where you're coming from, but I can also see that the fans may not want to hear it, because they may think like, when they've asked him questions like, what do you think of Lord Draken? And they've gone, oh yeah, I really love the character, he's amazing. And now I'm hearing, oh, I wanted them gone from the internet, scrubbed, which would be virtually impossible at this point right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of artists. I'm sorry.
No, I understand. I mean, you have the belief in things that you want, and people don't know what went on. And Jason did publicly talk about how he didn't like Draken, but Jason also Jason's wonderful. He doesn't want to hurt the fans. So he would keep up the front a lot about certain things that he liked and didn't like, but he would always be like, oh, I wish they know the truth. I want them to know the truth. And before he passed, he actually started scrubbing everything of Draken off the internet, because he really just kind of hated. He didn't necessarily hate the character. He hated what the character represented in the betrayal of how everything went down.
So the character choices.
Well, not the character. It has nothing to do actually with the character. Because what happened is me and Jason pitched a very similar story, and I have concept art and all sort of stuff. And and then 3 years later, here it was. I introduced Kyle to Jason, and basically then this came out, and then Jason funded that whole project, that whole video that was online, because he wanted to have a piece of it. He wanted to have a part of it. He felt that he'd done so much for the Ranger brand and he made no money off it. And so because Power Rangers was the biggest selling toy in the 90s, and then the Green Ranger, White Ranger was the biggest selling toy of Power Rangers. So basically Saban made millions off him, and he made nothing. So he was like, all right, cool, I'd love to come up with a character. I'd love to create this character and have a part of it. And he's like, and then he paid for all the footage. So technically all that footage that's online, he owns all that, which is why he was like, I want it gone. I want it. And that's what started the big explosion of that character. And then basically Boom and all of them just basically went off with it and basically didn't include him in any sort of anything. And he felt really betrayed by that, because that is what had happened to him so many times. And so then that's why he was like, I want this character gone.
I can definitely see that, because it seemed like the trailer came out, it looked like to be like a mini short film series, and all of a sudden, oh, here's Boom with comics, boom, right there. My biggest question that's been going through my mind the past couple of days, especially since Sunday, was how do you know Amy Jo had I guess pitched this idea about Tommy and Kim having a kid together when I haven't even seen any evidence of this Green Ranger, this female Green Ranger on the cover, being their daughter. Like, I haven't seen any information on it.
So what that was, and that might have been a misstep, and I think because I might have not said if. I know I said that later, and some people were like, you didn't say that before, and maybe I thought that that's what came off. Basically, I know there's been a story that's been floating around. I know that Amy spoke to Jenna a couple months ago, and there's been a story floating around about that. And basically, from reading the description, I was like, oh, that's that story they've been talking about. I was like, all right, well, I guess they're finally doing it. So I was like, and the point I was saying was, and people took it as accusations, and maybe it came across that way. But I was basically saying that if they are doing that story, then I hope Jason gets credit. If they're not doing that story, which I know Amy posted, she's like, just for clarification, we're not doing that story. Then I was like, all right, well, then you don't have to give Jason credit. Then that's fine. I don't care. And people get like, they're like, oh, Aaron's protective. Well, like he wants to own the Green Ranger. I was like, I don't really care. Do whatever you want. That's great. I just want Jason to get credit for what he did. If he didn't do anything, then don't credit him. That's pretty much as simple as it gets.
Yeah. That's the sucky part. It does make sense, and you clarify the whole, but because that's just the way corporations work. Even though they own it and they own the physical appearance, things like that, they don't feel like they should give him any type of rights. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is.
Right, but not even the rights, just like credit. Like when we did the when we pitched very similar. It was called Return of the Emerald Dragon, which basically was if you took Draken and you took Soul of the Dragon and combined them. That's essentially what our story was. And after all that went down with Draken, we then ended up working with Boom on what we kept calling Old Man Tommy's story. And we worked on it with Boom, and then like they were like, all right, we're announcing the project today. And I was like, cool. And then that day they're like, we're going to take yours and Jason's name off the book, no longer as writers, because we're like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then they announced it, which was kind of like, it's a really kind of shitty thing to do, because it's basically you can't get your lawyers to stop it because it already goes online. Right. And I've just seen this happen a lot. And I was like, you're not crediting Jason. And then eventually they gave him a special thanks after we really went back and forth with them or consultant. But it's just, once again, he just felt so disheveled and so hurt by that, because we just wanted the credit. Like me and Jason were like, don't pay us. Like, I don't, like, because comics pay so little. Like, you'd be surprised how comics pay. They pay like nothing. I was like, I don't care. Like $300-$400 or whatever. Like, just the credit. We want the artistic credit of, like, that's what we like. We pitched the story. We got it to where it was going. And then it's like, well, we changed it just enough to where we legally don't have to credit you guys. And you're like, well, that's kind of shitty. And the weird thing is what's frustrating for Jason is that, I saw him go to Saban and pitch our Green Ranger series and our other series. And Jason, he go, I work for free. He goes, I'll work for free. He goes, this is what the fans want. He goes, I know what the fans want. Let me be in the driver's seat. He goes, I'm on the front lines. I see them. Like, I want to do this. But he didn't obviously have, he had a lot of great ideas, and then I would take them and write them and construct them together. And then we would go in together. And I was just always amazed at how underappreciated he was, and that's why I was very frustrated. So that's what I was saying in this situation. I was like, oh, I've seen, it's like past traumatic stress. Like, I've seen it play out 1,000 times. I was like, if you're going to use his ideas, please credit him. Please do that. So, but it was never a dig at Amy, though. It was definitely more of a dig at Boom.
Yeah, it just seemed like a lot of behind the scenes frustration came to the forefront, and I'm like, why the hell do we need to know this? Type of thing. Yeah. Like, come on now, we don't need to know that. But I get it.
Jason wanted to know, and it also came out on the day that he passed, so it was very sad. And been talking with Jenna and Tammy all day, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna, or like 2 days before. I'm sorry, it wasn't the day. It was like 2 days before, and I was just like, and I'm kind of like, over time, I try to be like Tom Brady about everything and not like speak about a lot of stuff, just be like, have your head in the game. But then it's like, eventually so many times, you see your friend get dragged through the mud. I just want to be like, I just want to just here's all the truth, and here's all the shitty people, and here's all the people that used him, and here's everything. Like, stop celebrating these people. But I don't do that. But there's like, it's just frustrating.
No, I feel you, because sometimes there is precedent to do that, especially like you said, when someone is drugged in the mud, because there's some behind the scenes things that I am privy to, and I get you want to just be like, no, that's not it. Let me defend them. Right. But if the situation isn't presented, there's really no need. You know what I mean? Because the last thing his image would be so positively loved is, we know right now, it's his passing and the way he passed. Okay, suicide. That's just a negative thing. We seen what's going on online with some of these Galactic Productions, whoever they were, they like represent the actors at cons and things like that. The stuff they said was really disgusting publicly. You know what I mean?
Very, yeah.
So it's kind of like, if you just push the film out and just let it be what it is, a positive image, no matter what someone say, this is going to be his legacy, what we remember.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I mean, ultimately, like, it's kind of funny is that, like, the white dragon is, really his, that's his legacy. That's the end of his legacy, and it's a lot of
Right.
pressure to make sure that that is as good as it can be, and that we deliver in every way we can. And there's a lot of really heavy moments in the film. The film does deal with suicide. It does deal with addiction. It deals with a lot of things. And Jason was putting a lot of his truth in the movie, and it just, he was. Jason was a wonderful human being, and I always say he gave everything, and I always worry that
He gave too much sometimes. He
he
did.
gave too much, and a lot of people took advantage of him. And
Yeah.
I'm very protective. Like when we're on set, and if one of the guys is being inappropriate with the girls come to me, because I was like, I will go after that person. I'm very protective of my people, and I don't
Right.
like injustice and that kind of stuff. So just seeing that with Jason, I get very protective, which could come across as me being arrogant or an asshole or all those things, which I understand that. And that's why I try to explain it. And some people just don't want to hear it because they just don't know, or they don't know how well I knew Jason,
Mhm.
I think that goes back to what I said before. It's to the point where everyone will have that image of JDF in their mind, the
Right.
person that loves Draken, the person that loves the Green Ranger. But when I've listened to some of your live streams and I hear those like little digs where, like in your last one, which the one where you're saying that you're remembering Jason, I found that kind of a weird one, because when I was watching it, I was like, you only talk very brief, like not briefly, but you mentioned like a few stories with Jason. And then all of a sudden it's just like, here's my figure, here's this. And then there was one comment that you made, and it's just like someone asks about the Master Morpher. And then you went, yeah, there's a problem with that or something. Or you kind of, it felt like you wanted to start something, but then held back. And then when I kind of heard this, I was like, yeah, the Master Morph is not the greatest thing, and you can hear it in Jason's voice and some of the lines that were delivered. But it felt like, to some people who love that product or whatever, wanted to keep it sacred. But now I'm like, oh, what was that problem with the Master Morpher? What was this? Or why hasn't Aaron talked more? Because you keep saying like, you're so close to Jason for over 10 years, but then majority of the time was like, look at my figures, this is really cool. Then I've got this, and then you hardly speak about it. Like, I think the best story I heard was the piano one, and it was really nice to see that footage. That was what I wanted to hear from that live stream, rather than talk about what you'd gotten in a way, if that makes sense.
It does. Well, earlier that day, I posted my live stream that I did like 2 days after Jason's passing, and had a lot of stories on there. On the live, I was hoping more people would ask questions about Jason. I try to answer them as much as possible. I did advertise earlier that I was going to. What the irony is, ironically or serendipitously or whatever, is that the figures actually came in on that day, which is kind of like a beautiful thing to unbox those figures. For my friend, because he loved action figures, as do I, and it was cool to look at them on the anniversary of that, and that was really special for me. I could see how it would come across as like, oh, you're selling stuff, which we make no profit off those, by the way. So there's not like any like financial gains from those. It was just more of a pride of kind of like, um, like we did it.
See your action figure be brought to life type thing.
Yeah, and like, because Jason, that was like really like a lot of the things like we talked about, because he always looked at the action figure and he's like, he always compared his action figure to a Rolex, and he was like, this is what people want. This is the rare thing. He's like, in the 90s they were hard to get. He goes, it was this. And he goes, and I wanted to own a piece of that. And he goes, we need to have great action figures made. We need to outdo everyone. He goes, we need to be the best. He goes, and he was like, the fans want this type of action figure and they want this sort of stuff. So in making these action figures, it was very meticulous to make these figures. And when you see them, they're really, really good. I own a lot of action figures. They're really nicely made figures. And it was just like, it was a wonderful thing to kind of unbox that on that day. But like I said, I could see where people just come in and they assume like, oh, you're just unboxing it to sell stuff, to use his name and blah, blah, blah. Which I mean, I understand that perception, but it's also like, this is what Jason wanted. It's what I wanted. I'm celebrating that. I probably could have told more stories about Jason. I know I told a few. I like people to ask questions a lot, and I could elaborate on any, wonderful, how I met Jason or what was my favorite story. Like I said, I have a lot of video, and it's fun to just kind of play that, because then you get to really see him. That's like, I think, way better.
Mm-hmm.
But But like in terms of like, sometimes I will hint at things or I'll throw a little jab at things. I'm like, I don't really want to get into this. I can, but I don't really want to. And like I said, I've told Francis, I'm like, I'd rather just play all Jason's audio and then just people be like, done with it. Like, that's why I'm like, when people say, Aaron, don't speak for him, I'm like, there's so much that what I'm saying is speaking so little on the topic that I'm like, I'm really not. And I was like, I'd rather just play. I just texted Francis yesterday. I said, I'm kind of tired of all this BS. I said, I'm just going to drop this audio online and just be like, I'm done with this forever. You know?
Yeah.
But I also don't want to drop his audio online because I was like, I don't.
Yeah, Francis cool people.
Huh?
Yeah, Francis cool people. She helped us a lot. She helped me and another person on something. That's another subject.
But Francis is great.
Yeah, she's good people. Yeah.
But if you trust Francis, do you like Francis and trust Francis?
Yeah.
Okay, then
her.
just ask Francis about me or any of the things I'm talking about. I talk to Francis all the time. You know.
Yeah, I always talk. We used to have a chat together, so
okay,
that's the reason why that on a particular thing. But that's another subject. It's but I know Francis though.
She's
definitely
cool.
know.
She's great.
Yeah, she a great people, and she look out for you.
Yeah, she does. She's really good. Francis is all around good. Like I said, there really is like there's a central hub of Jason's circle. The people that know everything, that look after, like when like even certain like business deals come in or different things, we all talk. It's basically it's Tammy, Jenna, Francis, me, and Tony. Like those are the people that we always try to look after and really maintain, and we're always trying to do right by Jason and the people that Jason trusted the most and different stuff like that. So but then a lot of us, Tammy got attacked and I hated that, and I was like, I wanted to come out and blast everyone, because people don't know the details. People don't know, they're like, Jason was so positive all the time, and it's like, you guys don't understand. And actually what's great about Jason is that he put a lot of Jason was very vulnerable online, which I think is why a lot of people really related to him, because a lot of people are broken or suffering with mental health, which actually even White Dragon's about. Jason Bass is like, we're like, let's make a movie where it's okay for a superhero to ask for help. He's like, that's what I want this movie to be about. He goes, because he's like, that's me, and it's just, people just see him as this superhero, which is wonderful. That's a great thing. But he's like, Jason wore his heart on his sleeve. His poetry showed that. And when people attack Tammy or Jenna, and I was like, that's they didn't do anything. Tammy's so broken over the whole thing. Like when they come out and they attack, I'm like, that's just like all those people are just very unaware, and they don't understand mental health. They don't understand all that sort of stuff. But like Tammy loves Jason. Like she's very broken over it. I've helped her a lot. My mom lost her husband, my stepfather, to a very similar thing that Jason did, almost exactly a year and 3 days before. So I've been helping her and then helping Tammy, like with the very similar stuff. I'll talk to Tammy at 2 a.m, and she's, because she loves him. And I was like, I hate hearing that. And I hate hearing fans just kind of like do that. That's why it's frustrating for me to see that. But I understand the question of other fans being like, they have this idea that they just want to hold on to. You're like, oh, I hate to hear that he's a bad person. Like that. No, I don't. Not that Jason's a bad person. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, I was talking about any celebrity that you think is perfect, and then you're like, oh no, he's.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing about being a human. A lot of people in our fandom really can't separate the character from the actor. Right. Okay. There's a duality to each person, and everyone isn't cookie color. Everyone isn't dragged through the mud or just dirty. You know what I mean? There's a balance. There's a yin and a yang. And from the perception online, again, is this clean image, this professional image. I'm going to just use that word. The professional image seems to have to be getting tarnished with his personal. And that's what seems to be the discourse online, is the professional is getting now folded into the reality of the person. And that's not necessarily something we should even be privy to or want if we don't know him on a personal level. And I get it. This is your buddy. This is your friend. But this isn't directly at you, per se. This is for the generalization of social media. We have so much access now to these people. And I think that's the root of it. We have so much access. We want to take and take and take. And we forget these people are humans. They have feelings. And I can see definitely you want to come on here and clear a name because you want to jump out and defend your friend because stuff are coming out about him that is negative. That's showing the human side of this character. And it's kind of like, I know where you're coming from, which is why I was like, yeah, let's just do this. Because I already said hell no not going to do this podcast at all. I said, hell no. And my team was like, no, we have to. And I was like, why? And I thought about it. I was like, no, because everyone deserves the right to defend themselves. And I'm like, sitting here, we have this conversation going on, this discussion. I can see that you want to defend your friend. And I get because you lost your friend. So everything that's been going on online is you have to speak up about your friend. So I understand it from that perspective. But again, being a journalist, some stuff we don't need to know, we don't have to know. And that's where I want to see the connection be made between artist, fan, and your creator. If we could separate the two.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, I know like a lot of times when celebrities, you know, they put out books, you know, like I know even just like a year ago, like when, you know, a lot of people didn't know Matthew Perry was an addict and all that sort of stuff. And the book came out and they're like, oh my God, it changes friends and it ruins friends. I'm like, but Matthew would come out. He's like, I don't want to be remembered for being Chandler. I want to be remembered for someone who struggled and inspired people to do this sort of stuff. And that's what Jason was doing at the end of his life. And that's why he's doing more poetry. He wants what the film's about. And he's like, I want the truth to be known. I want to do all this. So it's like, and he never got to get to that full point of really doing that. So that's why I was like, well, here's some of the truth. Here's some of the things that he didn't like. You know, it's I remember I saw this interview with John Lennon once where they got mad at him for talking because, like, you know, John was so open. You know, he posed naked on his album cover because he was so you know, because he basically because they accused, you know, they're like they had this Beatle picture idea, and he's like, I'm a human, I'm messed up. He goes, and that's why he posed naked on his album cover. He's like, look, this is me naked. I don't have anything to hide. I'm a broken person, and this is who I am. And I think that's why John Lennon resonated with so many people because he was like, I'm flawed. We're all flawed. Let's just work it out. You know, and Jason was kind of the same thing. And I just, like you said, it is tricky though because you're like, well, Aaron, Jason's not saying it, you're saying it. So how do we know the validity? Which is why I'm always like, Francis, let's just drop Jason's words. I was like, I don't want to speak for him either. I was like, just put his audio online. I was like, I hate this, you know, conflict. So
see, because you've mentioned quite a few times of dropping his audio. I think with a lot of stuff that people have been saying about, you know, what you're saying about Boom, Hasbro, other people, etc., I think because of all the people that are coming at you saying it, it might be worth just sitting down and saying, this is going to be a 6-hour video. This is everything. And we're going to play it and then put it into parts, you know, where he talks about Hasbro. Because I know Hasbro were not very good to him at the end. They've never been that great.
No, they've been trash.
No.
Yeah. And Jason with Hasbro, he had more problems with Saban than Hasbro. And I wanted to clarify that because people think that that what I said was they're like, oh, that me and Jason pitched the idea for what the final episode or the Once and Always was, which that story is that's a different story. They had a completely different story with Jason, and that's the story that was very. And I think I've played that audio online actually, where Jason talks about that. But the Once and Always though, that we had nothing to do with that. Basically, what happens is they were trying to really get Jason to do this, and Jason didn't really want to do it. Jason said he would only do it, I believe, if Amy came back and did it. Amy didn't want to do it. And then Jason was like, I just don't want, I'm doing White Dragon. I've separated myself for it. And then, but he was always like, but the fans will like it, so maybe I'll do it. And then they sent over the script and he's like, this is basically the synopsis to White Dragon. He's like, and then he was like, then he was done. He was like, you're exactly who I thought you were. I'm out. And then they had to completely rewrite a new story and put a new thing together kind of very quickly because they wanted Jason to be in it. The story was very different originally.
So that's why it was cheesy. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I you know, it's I just wanted to clarify that because some people said that I wrote, or I was saying that I wrote Once and Always, which I had nothing to do with that. And honestly, I hate to even get down on Hasbro because I think they make wonderful action figures. I think their X-Men Marvel line is superb.
Yeah, they're great. They're great as a toy company, but they're lagging.
Transformers.
They're lacking on Power Rangers.
Well, it's not even that. It's the production, the film, and television side.
It
They're
is
new with that. So
I like to kind of give a positive and a negative because some people come on and you can tell when people post, they're like, I'm just here to hate and just be. And I was like, I always try to be like, well, there's positives and negatives. I don't want to like just throw someone under the, you know, like. But as far as posting the audio, I agree. I could play some of it right now if you wanted, but just to show you that I'm not lying. But I agree that posting some of it might be good, but then some fans might be like, that's not supposed to, you know, like I want the truth known, and then I want the drama gone. And I feel like I'm worried that if I post audio, it'll open it up more, or maybe everyone will be like, "Oh, there it
You
is."
know what? That audio, if it comes from someone like, not saying not you're not the right catalyst to do it because you are friends with them, but if it comes from someone like Tammy, his wife, if it
Yeah,
comes from her, she's giving it okay, or she's giving her blessing for this to be his final words, aside from this film, because again, we got the professional Jason, and then we have the realistic, the real man. Which one do you want to be his legacy? Because if you release this audio and it's not going to show everything in this perfect world, it's going to show some of the dark side. What do you guys want to be his legacy? Because he's not here to defend himself. He's not here to continue and close the chapter on his life. It will be
right.
up to you guys.
Right, and it's not negative because there are a lot of and no one will ever know all the details of everything that went on, nor should they, because they just
Mm-hmm.
probably wouldn't understand unless an actual book was written. This was more just about a lot of just the fandom and a lot of the characters that like Draken and stuff like that. There's a lot of other inner workings that the fans don't know, and they shouldn't know, just because they don't understand. And I think even like sadly with Matthew Perry's passing, in his book, and people really showing like an understanding for that, and kind of going through that, I think that awareness is great, and that's kind of what Jason wanted to do. I agree that it should come from a Tammy or Jenna. I am going to have Jenna on my YouTube live stream in like 2 weeks or 10 days,
Okay.
just so fans can ask. And also another thing, you brought this up because like I said, I talk to Jenna a couple times a week, and on that day, I think when I posted that, what I posted, I spoke with Jenna earlier, and Jenna was really, not that I'm justifying or putting this on her, but I love Jenna. She's great. She gets people, sometimes are unkind to her, which is silly. I'm like, she's an 18-year-old girl who just lost her father. You need to back up, but she was really frustrated that day because a lot of people, she knows all the truth, obviously, and she's venting to me, and she's upset about all these things. And I was like, I know. I was like, if you want me to say something, I'll speak up for you. If you're, she gets, I feel bad. That's why I was like, come on my YouTube, and let's just, she's like, I just want to tell people the truth, and I just want people to know the score. And I was like, you can come on my YouTube and talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I feel a lot of people don't see the actual inner pain, of like I know someone like went online and they said like like, oh, Amy's Jason's best friend. No one was hurt more by his death than Amy. And I was like,
Yeah, that's a little selfish to
and I
say
was like,
because
that's very disrespectful to his wife
yeah,
and his daughter. So then I'll chime in like, Aaron, what do you know? And I was like, you just insulted his wife and his daughter. And I was like, who I stay late at night with them on the phone while they're crying. I'm trying to like talk to them. It's like,
yeah,
and
I could
it's just,
see because again, like even though in this little discussion, I can kind of see the insight now as to the pain is always reopening up a wound for you specifically because you are editing, so you are seeing your friend every day, and then having to come to realization that it is going to be a goodbye, final goodbye.
right.
So,
And it was, it's just, it's just, just really, one of it is very sad. Just say what you're saying, because having known him very well and know how much that he had a lot taken away from him, and and didn't get rewarded a lot, and it was always him trying to fend for himself. Like a lot of companies didn't believe in him, and they wouldn't, they would always just kind of use him to put together White Dragon. And I mentioned this to Francis, and to me, it's like the saddest thing actually is that I would have loved to have seen him at the premiere,
right.
truly happy and proud of something that he did, and to see the whole team that believed in him. It's like, and I just feel like if we could have gotten there, that would have sustained him to still be here.
You know what? The thing is with that, again, when the film coming out and you guys are doing the best work you can do, that would be, he would be there in spirit. He would be there because it's sort of, you guys are working with him to bring his baby to fruition across the finish line.
Right.
He was able to make it. So you can find peace and solace in that, knowing that you are doing everything you can to make the best project. And he is proud of it.
And that's what we're doing. And I work on it literally, I work on it every day. And I know fans get frustrated because they're like, you're milking it. You're just taking, I can guarantee you the film is definitely going to come out.
You sure? When, sir?
It's going to come. I know. Well, I would say a few things and I can try to just, because I hate also like playing the victim and all that. And like, oh, the complaining and like,
yeah, it's not that.
But it's like, the movie started much smaller. We raised $500,000 on Kickstarter, like 150,000 that goes to the rewards and goes to the taxes and the fees or whatever. We had a private investor come in, and the movie started smaller, and then we got almost all principal photography done. There's still about 10% left. And then normally what happens when you watch all that and you go back and then you like, oh, these are the parts that are missing. I mean, Captain America 4 right now, they've gone back and they just ordered 8 months of reshoots because the whole movie's just like
they're completely redoing a new film. That is ridiculous.
And when we came back and like we're like, all right, because at first is like you have to remember that COVID also happened that slowed down the production, and I was like, that was like a big thing, and people are like, well, why, and I was like, all the the Flash got delayed like a year and a half, right? And now I'm not saying the Flash is a great movie, but I'm like, it has $300 behind it. It has like 10,000 people. I was like, we are a film company. We've grown very far from our YouTube origins, but I'm like, but still though, like COVID protocols, eventually when things got back up, COVID protocols took over 15% of the budget just to implement them on safety and stuff. And I was like, and that hurt. And then it's like our investor had to put more money in. And then Jason passed, obviously. Also during that time, like I said, I lost my stepdad. My mom had a cancer scare. And then when COVID happened, my dad was in the hospital for 10 days and it wasn't looking good. So I was like, there's a lot of things that go on that also slow things down. I don't like to go online and be like, oh, poor me, because everyone has problems. And I'm not trying to like, mine aren't bigger than yours. It's just, this is what happened. And then Jason passed. Then we cut the film together. And then we're like, oh man, we need there are parts that need to be filled in or this doesn't work or whatever. Normal for movies. Right. And then it's like, well, how do we do that? How do we figure that out? And then it's like, now we need to get the money to do that. And then when Jason passed, the expectation and pressure of like, this can't just be like a Crackle or Tubi movie. This has to be Netflix. You know what I'm saying?
Crackle or Tubi. Yeah. Damn. Okay, we got it.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, not
exactly. No, you can shade Tubi because they got some trash.
But this isn't just a movie with Jason. This is his legacy. This will always what people will go back to. And it's like, what's funny is that when the fans get mad at me and us, I was like, we're literally putting everything in it so you guys will love it. And I was like, we make no money off it. Like, that's like, we're like, you're milking. I was like, we don't make any money. I was like, and and I would love it for there to be a profit so we could give Tammy and Jenna the money. But we basically are trying everything we can to make it good. And then the writer's strike happened. And then I was like, we just ramped back up to shut back down. And it's like, people were like, why is this taking so long? And I was like, we went through our entire industry shut down. I go, our lead actor passed. I go, I was like, I had a lot of family health issues. And then we had a global pandemic. I was like, I don't know what more you would need. Now, I will say things like this is the release date, and fans like just don't announce a release date. And I understand that. But then you announce a release date and then something happens. You're like, well, then that happened. And I was like, that's why I'm like, it's 2024. The film is still looking to be completed in Q1. We're still on track with that. We're going back and we're shooting a bunch of new stuff. Like David Ramsey and Mark Dacascos have come in, offered their time. They're like, we want to make this the best that it can be. We all love Jason. So it's just like it gets frustrating because I'm like, all we're trying to do is like protect Jason, and then fans are like, you're just trying to destroy Jason. I'm like, it's so the opposite. But I can see though, I'm not saying that those
perception
is wrong though.
So
I think it's just with some of the stuff that you say online, where like that the statement that you put out about Amy Jo Johnson and everything, but then like your last thing was like, we're trying to look after JDF's family, unlike certain companies,
right?
And I just literally saw that as either you're throwing shade at Hasbro or you're throwing shade at Saban, and then I was just like, but what sort of companies would then do that? Not unless they've caused problems like, oh, I took your arm off, so we're going to give you $1 million a month or whatever. But it just felt like you're throwing shade a lot. And I think that's what kind of puts me off as well as some of the fandom, where they want to see JDF's legacy, they want to see all this hard work that you've put into, but then when you throw a little bit of shade, it makes you just go, all right, okay, cool. Like, if you've got this massive beef, just literally make a video, just literally do an entire post, do stuff.
And there's truth to that. I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I'm not saying any of you are wrong. And that's why I told Francis, I was like, let's just drop this audio and be done with it. Because what'll happen is people are like, you're milking Jason, you know, Amy loved Jason, she would do nothing to hurt him. And I was like, well, Jason's family makes nothing off that book. You know, this project, Jason makes money off this. So it's like what people end up calling me or saying to me, and I'm like, all the other companies you're defending, they actually are the ones milking Jason. We're not at all. So that's kind of what that shade is. Which, you know, throwing shade is not always the best thing, and it's not the most mature or good look. But can we swear on this podcast?
Fuck we can. This is not for children.
Okay. I was checking. I don't want to disrespect you guys, but you know, sometimes, you know, you hear enough of that, and you hear a bunch of these things, and you just think like, you know, like, fuck them. Like these companies that use Jason, it's just like, and you don't want to say that, so you're like, unlike some people, it's like me curving what my real feelings are. But then that can also be twisted, which is why I said, let's just drop the audio, and that's it. Then I was like, and what's funny, I was like, and she's like, well, how can we explain it? How can we describe it? And I was like, you know what? I don't even want to do that. I just want to be like, here's the audio. It's Jason's words. Assume what you want. It's just the truth.
Give context and some backstory if you just drop that.
I know so that's the thing.
Give some context.
It's true. It's true.
The way that I can see it would be just like a dark room, and then suddenly like a light from above just opens up, 2 chairs, you, Tammy, or Jenna, whoever, just sit down and go, this is it. And then titles pop up like, say, Boom Studios, and then literally you just sat there going, push the button, and then just letting the phone just literally do its thing, and then you kind of do it after. I think that would be kind of interesting, because not from a funny type of thing, but it's everything's out then. Because if, say for example, I don't know, you pitch a story, or you've pitched a story to Boom, and it was like, what happens if Tommy ate loads of waffles, and then suddenly you find out that Tommy's eating tacos or something, then at least you can prove and say, this is what we said, this is the date, this is what it was said, and then you can go, we've got nothing to hide. So then people can refer to it, and you can just go, watch this video, timestamp 1:32, and then people can go, we've heard that from JDF himself, we've heard it from you, and it gives more of a kind of an option for people to go like, okay, do I believe this? Do I not? Does JDF like tacos? I don't know, but at least we've got that out there properly, and I think that's what maybe some of the fandom wants to see.
I agree, and if you want, I can even, I mean, like, you guys can, because like I said, I haven't put it on because I worry about the backlash, and I worry about it being perceived wrong. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I'm trying to figure that out, which I think those are all good ideas that you said. And I can even privately just message you guys these audios, and you can listen to it, and you can let me know what you think the best thing is. Because I really don't want to upset anyone. I actually want to just give my friends truth and then just be done with it. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. The perception is because you are, you know, taking the lead front as being the face of Batinthenerdz, right? So that's why I would be directing to go towards you, because you're the face of it. Kind of like when everything comes towards Global Nerds is me, my black ass. They were like, oh, it's him. Like, yeah, it is. It's whatever. I take the heat of it. But if you are going to release that video, again, like I said earlier, sit down with the family and let that be the way that you guys go. You know what I mean?
So going back to Boom Studios a lot, because you say that a lot of you pitched it. You guys pitched it to them. I'm wondering what Amy has pitched to them, but what I'm terrified about for my own projects is how much of Boom Comics right now of the Power Rangers stuff is all either fan made from you guys, from just all these other different places.
It's hard. Okay, so it's tough to say, because in the creative pool of ideas, there are some things that, you know, that you come up with and you pitch, and there's some like that go down, that trickle down, right? Like, I'll give an example here, like you know, Tobey Maguire's Organic Webs. That was originally created by James Cameron, and the script that he pitched that constantly just went through revisions, and wound up in Sam Raimi's script, which James Cameron never got any credit for. But James Cameron's the one that came up with that idea. So it's like, how much of what you pitch is really, that was really what it was, or is maybe just like it was just a coincidence. We just happened to, like, one time, I in my Batman Joker film that I did, my line said something about Twilight, and fans were like, "Oh, I love that he seeded Twilight because Robert Pattinson is," and I was like, "That's not. That was just a coincidence. I don't like that. Wasn't what I was doing." And people like to put things together, or they try to make things like, well, that's not really. And fans probably think that's what I do a lot, but I only can tell you what we did. We pitched our whole Green Ranger story to Saban, and they were just in early talks with Boom, hadn't put out any comic books, and I just me and Jason said, well, why don't you make it a comic book? Make this a comic book. And they had all kinds of questions for us, and I remember they asked all kinds of, like, they had a lot of versus questions, and they were like, oh, because White Ranger Scorpion had just come out, and it got like 9 million views, and they're like, we don't have any Power Ranger video that has that many views. Like, how did you do that? And we were like, well, make cool stuff. Jason's in it fighting, whatever. And then they were all about versus. And then like 3 weeks later, they had this big versus round robin of all the Rangers where you vote and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's why you guys kept messaging me and all about these versus things. And I was like, all right. But then at the same time, right, you go, oh, they stole that from us. I go, you didn't really steal it. It's just because fighting we didn't create that. That's so. But I was like, but you saw that it worked with us, and you wanted it to work for you. The only weird thing about Saban is they never said that they were working on that to us. And the thing of it is, if they were like, hey, we'd like your help. What is that? And I'm like, oh, I'll help you with it. It's fine. I don't care. Like, I've offered to work for free. So I was like, I really just want to see Jason succeed and the fans like what they like. So a lot of the stuff, now there were a lot of specifics that we pitched that I was like, oh, like the Lord Draken logo. I was like, that's almost a very similar logo to our logo. The way his shield spikes up, it's very similar. He has a red visor, very similar. Our character was called the Dark Lord Dragon Ranger, became Lord Draken. Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not. But then what happens when you read the story and you're like, eventually after like 12, you're like, this is kind of weird now.
Oh, I get it, because I know there's a fine line between plagiarism and inspiration, and being a smaller content. Some of these big companies aren't going to take your content and make it something their own. Like, we've been a product of that myself, so I understand it. But it's kind of like, well, damn. I get it. I'm glad you guys are inspired. You're not gonna give me the credit because, for one, you own the license, and I'm kind of doing what I want to as a content creator. You know what I mean? But it's kind of like,
But my thing is just credit. I just wish that Jason, because there's a lot in there that I was like, even like the designs, and I was like, this is because the crazy thing is, like, when they adapted our costume in the comic books,
right?
I was like, oh, you put our costume in the comic. I go, that's cool. And then fans are like, oh, they ripped you off. And I was like, well, they own Power Rangers. We can't like sue them or anything. I was
that's like, the thing that's frustrating, because it's like, well, no, it's ours. You know what you did. It's ours. But you can't do anything.
And then I reached out to Dan, because I know Dan Mora. And I was like, hey man, I was like, you did a great job, like, interpreting our suit, like, cool. And he messaged me, he's like, yeah, he's like, Boom loved your suit. He goes, they wanted to use it, so they just said interpret the Batinthensun suit. And I was like, yeah, it looks great. I was like, cool. I reached out over to Bryce over at Boom, and I was like, hey, so are you just gonna give us like credit, or like, how's it gonna work? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, what do you mean I don't know what I'm talking about? I was like, yeah, that's our suit, like everything on it is basically. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, I have messages from Dan that you told him to use our suit. And I was like, I don't want money. I go, I don't want money at all. I go, just acknowledge that me and Jason designed that suit. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is like, I don't know what we're doing here now. And it's that kind of stuff that's very frustrating, and that Jason will get very mad about, because he's like, and the same thing with Draken. He's like, I went to bat for that. I did all these things. And he's like, and I'm not getting credit now. And now he's like, and I was like, I know. I go, it sucks. So, so it's hard to say, how much is inspired and goes in there. And, it's like, there's like a Wolverine Predator comic out now, right? And it's really popular. And
you guys did that.
Yeah, we did that. And like in that video has over like 100 million views across all the different social media. 100 million. That's a lot of views.
And your Wonder Woman versus Wolverine was a very big one as well, too, that I'm now seeing about to be adapted in the comics.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like maybe we inspired it. I can't say for sure because before us, Batman fought Predator in the comic books, and there's always been, or they had Terminator vs. RoboCop.
Yeah.
So maybe we inspired it, and then it's art inspiring art, and that's fine. And that's the kind of thing that I'm like, I don't need credit for that because I don't. Maybe I inspired. Maybe a writer was like, "This is so cool. We should make this a comic book," and I was like, "All right," but I didn't create those characters. I didn't do any of that. That's fine. I don't need that. Maybe I was the influence, and that's cool to know that. The adapting the Green Ranger costume in the comic, I was like, well, that's clearly like these are our choices. Just give us credit, no money. We didn't create the Green Ranger, nothing like that. So it's like that's where that line is drawn as far as like respect versus just admiration.
Yeah, these corporations don't know anything about respect or anything like that. Just
right.
I mean, y'all could at least have some royalties or something.
Yeah.
I want no credit. Y'all can at least give me some royalties.
And then, well, the nice thing is that when our costume was adapted into the game, the Power Ranger video game that's out, the fighting game,
Legacy Wars.
yeah, our costumes in there, and they call it. I figure they call it. They either call it the
Evo or something.
They call it version 2, or they call it the Batinthenerdz version 2, or Superpower B. I forget.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, okay, well, thank you. Appreciate that respect. But even like this character here, co-created this character, never got any credit for that. And it's just like, man, guys, I'm like, come on, like, I just want to like. Because I'd work for you more. I like all these characters. I would, and it's like you keep taking me and Jason's ideas and not crediting us. We want to work with you for free.
Yeah,
I'm curious what we're doing here. I was like, we love all this, and then it's like, and then you're gonna make us bitter, and then they're like, and it's like, we'll just do our own thing, whatever,
Yeah, that's a bigger thing now because it's kind of like with these strikes going on with the SAG-AFTRA and stuff. Content creators definitely need to be part of that conversation now because there's a lot of influence that content creators produce and these big corporations are taking on themselves. So I think that's a bigger conversation need to be had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
y'all should got credit though, because those technically y'all's characters though. But
and that's all I want. And that's really kind of what started with the whole thing of this when they pitched like, oh, they're gonna do Jenna as or Green Ranger, and I was like, if they do Jason's story, I hope he gets credit because I was like, I've been through this a bunch of times and I've seen how it plays out. But it was not to throw any shade at Amy, and that's when people came back and they're like, Amy would never hurt him. Amy loves him, and I was like, they're best friends. I'm like, I'm sure Amy wouldn't hurt him. I'm not saying that she would at all. I'm just saying that they weren't best friends, but that doesn't really matter. I'm just as a side note. I was like, but that's not who I don't have any problems with her. So it was just more like just the cycle of what Jason been through. So that's all. And hopefully that makes sense. I hope that
it clarified a whole bunch of things and put a lot of things in perspective.
Oh, definitely.
And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. I set aside a lot of time. Like I said, I started BATINTHESUN because a long time ago, because I'm like you guys, a fan, grew up with this stuff, grew up in comic shops, wanting to make cool shit, and it's blown up. And now I'm doing really cool things. I have another movie in the works. It's really big that I can't talk about yet, and it's just like, but I still buy I'll run into fans at comic stores or toy stores, and they're like, oh, you're like us, and I was like, yeah, I own a ton of toys. Like I was like, I like all this stuff, and so when the fans turn against me, I'm like, I want you guys. Like I'm trying to fight for like what you guys want. That's why we do what we do. So it's like heartbreaking when they kind of
No, I get it. And I'm glad you came on here and reached out because the thing is, we are neutral. We're fans, and when we see something, we're gonna call it out, just what it is. And to now have the different perspective, we kind of like, okay, we get it. I don't agree with half of it, but I get it. I understand. I respect it, and I respect you as a person, and I understand where it comes from as your friend. You know what I mean? I gotta defend my friend. But with all that out of the way, let's get to some positive things and let's change the mood because we do got Legend of the White Dragon coming out.
Yes,
I do want to know something about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one question though.
Yeah,
because it's Legend of the White Dragon now, and his name is Eric Reed.
Yes.
Previously, when it first announced, before the Kickstarter, it was like the Power Ranger story continuous. He was it Tommy Oliver originally?
The first Kickstarter was more tied in with Power Rangers, and then when we relaunched it, then it was very much a clear cut separation from it, where it's its own original thing. It's very much like a homage, like the way that Seth MacFarlane does the Orville. Or how right now Zack Snyder's doing Rebel Moon that was originally pitched as a Star Wars story, and then he kind of tweaked it to make it original. but there's a lot of, you know, there's like a lot of Star Wars homages in it. So that's kind of what this is. This was basically, you know, because Seth MacFarlane, Zack Snyder all wanted to tell their version of it. The brand didn't like that, so he's like, I'll just do my own thing. And me and Jason wanted to tell this story as you know, as a Power Ranger story, the Return of the Green Ranger, and they didn't do it. So like, we'll just do our own thing, and that's kind of where it's come from.
Gotcha.
One of my friends, his name is Dallas Tier Arcam on Instagram. He's begging for it. He's begging, when is it coming out?
It'll be out in 2024. We're working on it. It looks really good. And I really can't wait for you guys to see it. We're very, very proud of it. We're just dialing in because we know that it's going to be scrutinized and torn apart. So we have to make sure that it's really, really good. But everyone does a great job. You know, Mark Dacascos, Michael Madsen, you know, Jason, of course. I hope I do good in it. You know, King Batch is great in it. He's a friend. He's hilarious. So Ciara, Serena, Jenna, I mean, they all do a great job. And they all really believe in it. It's all very emotional now when we do reshoots, you know. Right. So, but we're trying really hard to make it really great and make it like an actual, real low budget film. You know, I mean, it's the effects are as good or maybe a little better than CW, like the Superman and Lois show. Which is funny when people will be like, this just looks like a CW show. And I was like, you know, Superman and Lois is $8 million an episode. I was like, that's like a lot of money for 40 minutes for sets that are already built. So I was like, if we look that good, that's great. I think the drama and the acting, I hope are better. But I don't want to, I hate, you know, like, I think it's very funny when people will like attack the film or attack whatever. I read one comment. They're like, this movie's going to bomb. It's going to make less than the Marvels did. I was like, the Marvels made $100 million. I was like, this movie's not going to do that. Like, it's going to go like right to Netflix. I was like, what are you talking about? But I was like, but it's like these weird double-edged insults. And I was like, if the movie made 10% of what the Marvels made, I'd be like, this is great. Like,
right.
I'm like, where's perception and negativity is like very silly to me sometimes. But we're trying. We're working really hard. And if you have any other questions about White Dragon, I'll happy to answer them.
I just got a few fan questions.
Sure.
If you really want a really good Tommy like impersonator and voice over, Joey Sorless from Scyther Audio would love to be a part of projects. And then DCPX of Combating the Grid, he really wants to do a Scorpion Ranger versus Ryu Ranger, Battle of the 90s.
That'd be cool. I mean, we got our Ryu Ranger, the Crimson Hawk, which I named, which is pretty cool. As a fan, I as a 10-year-old fan of Power Rangers, it's pretty cool. I wish we could do a Scorpion Ranger, but I don't think they'll ever lock that license together because Mortal Kombat's just too violent. There originally was an alternate ending to Scorpion versus White Ranger, and Scorpion ripped apart the White Ranger, and we showed it to Saban, and they're like, if you could not put that online, we would appreciate that. And I was like, all right, we won't put it online. But I have it though. But that would be a cool battle. And the guy who says he does impersonations, if he wants to reach out to me, he can. My email and my Instagram are always like available to everyone.
Sweet.
So, I mean, obviously, how are all the clips done for like with JDF, or is it something that you may have to go back and kind of piece together his voice, or is it like literally just other reshoots around, like say that doesn't include him?
There's a lot of shooting that doesn't include him, piecing things together where they story wise maybe didn't connect together. We're using everything with Jason in it, and we're not, you know, AIing his voice or anything like that. I want to make sure there's as much Jason in the film as possible, and there's a lot of him in the film. Like I said, we got through 90% of his principal photography. It's just a lot of the scenes around it. You know, even if you look at like Dark Knight, like Batman's in it a lot, Bruce Wayne, but there's also a lot of Harvey Dent. There's a lot of, you know, the mayor or Commissioner Gordon. There's a lot of Joker. So you got to build all that around it. So that's why it's a lot of shoots. I mean, there has been, I think we'll eventually hit 60 days shooting on this film, which is a lot. Oppenheimer, I think, was 64. So there's a lot of things that have gone on and things that just problems that have happened. But we're all getting there. Right now, we're on the last leg of it, and we're really excited about it. And we brought on actually a big time movie producer who's been overseeing it and helping us and telling us where to fix things. And because what happens is you work on a project and you kind of get like it's too close to you, and you're like, I don't know what's good anymore. You know, so you need someone to come in and give you like, oh, okay, that's good. Okay, we can fix that, tweak that around. Okay, good. Yeah, like we're really pulling out all the stops we can to make this great. But there's been a lot of reshoots. I'll sometimes like do a little selfie on set, being like, I'm on set right now, you know, or whatever. But I try to be as transparent as possible. I really, like I said, nothing to hide or whatever. I'm like, just this is what it is. You can ask, you know. Sometimes I also like, this is my fault. This is not an excuse. I sometimes will post or answer people's questions when I'm driving. I drive a lot, and then what happens? They're like really short answers, and then I can see how people are like, that was really short. There was no like explanation or care in there, but that's my fault. You know, and then people come at me hard, and I was like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. I was like, this is why I like to talk to people. And hopefully talking with you today, I think it's been more clear like who more of I am than versus like what the words that are online, if that makes sense.
It's definitely like, after hearing you talk about a few things, it has kind of opened my eyes to a lot of stuff, because from what I can only see online is literally what you posted. So again, that entire whole post where you just like, oh, you know, this has happened, and then seeing like the extra stuff, like you know, Amy Jo Johnson not being friends, and just therefore I think that then sparks off into multiple things, because once you hear that sort of thing, like we can only see what goes on. So if JDF turns around and says like, me and Amy Jo are like the best friends ever, that's then saying, oh shit, they are, aren't they? And then when you hear someone like, nah, they're not that close, or yeah, she wasn't the saddest out of the lot, I'm just like thinking, okay, so is that with everyone? Like, you know, do we then go to JDF and go, well, think about JDF, go, well, was he not friends with, say, Walter or that guy from Ninja Steel or whatever? And it kind of like sparks lots of rumors. So
no, it's true, which I know the answer to both those questions, but
yeah.
That
one
we don't want to know the answer though.
I know, but there are certain people like, and I said this, I think, on my live or something like that. I said, here are all the people that, because I was like, I don't want to speak or do anything like that, but I was like, here's the truth. I was like, here are the 7 Rangers that were invited to his funeral, and I go, and take it for what you want, but that's how you should know. And I go, that's it. So you know, it's I don't want to. And I don't want to, like I said, if Jason didn't want it known or didn't want it like certain, you know, then I wouldn't talk about it. But if Jason's like, this is what it is, or these people are used him or clout writing and he wants it known, then I was like, well, then I was like, I'm just going to say something. But I understand that out of context, it can seem really, you know, not good.
I think when in that post as well, when you talked about context, we can only see what you post, because obviously you've known him for 10 years onwards. So when you're saying like, oh, things have gotten lost in translation, or, you know, the context isn't there, you're the one providing the context. So when I see it, I just go, well, hang on a minute, like where else am I going to get this information from? So it kind of drops down, and then when other people see that, they just go, well, yeah, like you are the person giving that example. You're the ones who said these words. You're the ones who've posted it. So how come the fans are being blamed for taking things out of context when it's them in black and white?
It's true. And you know, because you end up living in 2 different worlds, and then you kind of like don't see each other's world. Because like when this all went down, I had other Rangers reach out to me and were like, I understand, Aaron, you know, what you're saying is correct. These certain things. And I was like, I know, it's all like, so there's this group over here that like, oh, we know everything. And then you have the people that don't know anything. And then if you give them like cliff notes, then you're like, I don't like, you're just giving me like random, you know, it's like if you sing, like, if you don't know a song, like it's, I know Yesterday or whatever Beatles song, and I sing these lines, but you don't know the song. You're like, I don't know how that fits into anything else. Whereas if you know the song, you're like, oh, I know exactly where we are in the song. So it can be like a lot of like, oh, that's out of context. I should provide the context. But then I was like, I should just, like I said, I should just drop the audio and be like, there it is. I don't like, you know, because I don't like this back and forth.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I know exactly how, like, with YouTube is and stuff like that, or how drama starts and stuff like that. And I think it's best when everyone's got they're singing on the same page, or they know exactly what's going on. So that's why I just want to see you, Tammy, or Jenna, just in that dark room with that light just shining down, and you just going there, and then you just, at the end, just have a mic and then just drop it and go, "That's everything. I can't give you more." And then when someone says like, "Hey, like, I see you got problems," go link 1 minute 32, and then people can go, "Oh, okay, now I get it."
And that's true. And maybe when Jenna's on the live, I'll talk to her, because I know she was talking about, she wants to talk about a lot of truth on that. And I was like, if you want. So I was like, I'll ask her, go, Jenna, do you want to play audio? And if she's like, let's do it. And I'm like, all right. And we'll play it. And then be like, there you go.
Yeah.
I don't, is that offensive to fans? Is that not good? Is that
No,
bad?
that ceased the fire though.
Huh?
Yeah. It ceased the fire on you and everybody else. They were like, oh, okay. We can't say it's fake. That's his voice.
Right.
And that tones the fire down on you. So that's all that is.
I think
but the fans love Jason, and I love that, and I love Jason. So I was like, that's why we all need to just keep honoring him in his truth, and just celebrating him for who he was.
And then on top of that, it'll sell the thing down. Everybody be just shutting the hell up, and they ain't got nothing to say. That everything be in peace.
Right.
Yeah, that's what this conversation is going to do. Is completely dead some of the confusion that's been out there and clarify a lot of things.
Man. It's time for peace.
Which I definitely think needs to happen with clarification, and that's I like hearing all sides of the story, and that's why we're so neutral on everything. We ask the hard questions because we want clarification.
Yeah,
we want to give the fans what they want.
No, I agree. That's why I reached out to you guys, because I was like, because I have nothing to hide. And I was like, we're the same. We both love Jason. I go, I know things that you guys don't know that you might want to know that might be helpful. And here as it is. And now we can all love Jason and honor him and move forward and not create any sort of tension between each other, because that's not good.
Right. As a small community, we definitely got to try to have some type of olive branches reached out.
And that's why I reached out to you guys, because I saw you guys were so. I mean, like I said, you said wonderful things about me, but but I could see that you were passionate about Jason, and I loved that, and I was like, oh, you're passionate about my friend. Okay, cool. Let me talk to you guys. I think your heart's in the right place. We're all miscommunicating, and we can solve this, no problem.
Right.
Like I know I've said in videos and stuff, like I was interested in seeing Legend of the White Dragon. Then after all this came up, I was like, I don't want to watch it. Like, I don't want to see this. Now I'm like, okay, yeah, now I want to watch it. And, I know how people are like, oh, you have to stick to one. It's like, no, like things have changed. We've had this conversation. So I'm now more interested again to say, okay, I want to pick up a copy. Please make it available in the UK, because it's so much of a ball ache to get American DVDs and stuff like that. And like,
if not, I will buy you a copy and I will ship it to you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just the region lock. That's what annoys me.
We should. It'll be in theaters, or it'll be on streaming. So I mean, I think you should definitely be able to see it. And if not,
you might have to super mega force it.
You can also just reach out to me too. If you just reach out to me, I can arrange it.
Okay, that's better than super mega forcing.
Yeah, I mean, streaming's fine. I don't mind, but it's like obviously the main difference is like physical copies that you want to help them and buy, but because that most of them are region locked or something like that, it's a lot harder to kind of go like, and then everyone goes like, I've seen it, it's amazing. I'm like, great, spoil it all for me, thanks guys.
They used to do that with Power Rangers a lot. It was like, hey, spoiler alert, I seen before you did.
Well, cool. Well, I enjoyed this, guys. If you have any other lasting questions or anything I can answer before I jump off, happy to. But I'm
one. Are you going to be at the LACC this year? This December?
I am. Yeah, I'll be. Cool. We'll have a panel. Honestly, I'm a little worried.
I'm gonna go because I'm actually hosting my own panel there as well. So I'm gonna see you, which is why I asked.
Come by. Introduce yourself. Come by. We're gonna have. I don't know if you're a fan of any of the other people that are on the panel. Jenna, Serena, and David Ramsey. I can introduce you to all of them. We wanted to have. I was trying to put together a signing, but I'll be honest with you. all the fans were so angry and so intense. I was like, I'm a little worried to have a signing. Like fans are gonna be like so like mad, and I was like,
this hopefully would definitely calm some of that once you put out. I'm gonna put it out today, just so you can. I'm gonna put it out today, and it's gonna help it out. But yeah, I'm gonna see you in person. We'll dap you up, you know what I mean? Show you some support.
Hey, they ransom from the Arrow, right? That's the one he talking about, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hot.
Supposed to be the Green Lantern at the end of it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's the one then.
But yeah, we'll be there and we'll have a panel and we're gonna just basically allow people, because we couldn't have people. We were gonna have the whole cast at San Diego and we couldn't because of the strike. So we had to like nix all them. We had all the hotels and everything booked and we had to. So now I'm like, let's bring a lot of the cast to here. We're not going to show anything new. We're just going to basically just ask Jenna, Serena, myself, and David any questions and just fan interaction, because that's always a lot of fun. I always like questions the best. That's why I'm like, just ask questions. I love to just answer, clarify, and talk.
Definitely. Well, you know, when the Dragon come out and he's released, you can definitely come back on this podcast and promote it and talk about it, because I want to talk about it.
I want to hear your reviews and trash it. You're like, Aaron lied to us. That movie was terrible. It's garbage.
I will give a honest review.
Please do.
I always pride myself on anything. Like if I review something, whatever it is, I will always give an honest review. I know that I always think that the guys at Unworthy hate me because everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is amazing," and I'm like, "Yeah, that sound isn't like right. That sounds like you're in a room. This isn't cut right." Yeah. And I always think, "Shit, they fucking hate me."
No, actually, it's funny. I'll get chastised for Sue being like, you know, you don't like bad stuff said, and that's the opposite. I love critical information because that's how you learn and get better. Facts. What I don't like is when people are like insultive and I was like, there's a big difference between being critical and being mean. And I go, and that's like, I like one of those I don't tolerate, and one of those I'm like, oh, this is great. Tell me all the things you don't like. Like this could be better. This could be a little better. This is different. Like, oh, okay, great. That's all helpful. Like anything, like I played sports, so anything that's like help you and like critique you. But if you're just like you suck and you should die, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. Like that doesn't help me at all in filmmaking.
Now we didn't come off that harsh. At least I know. I just said fuck you. That's it.
Right. Which you can try saying that to my face. I don't know, you know, but I'm
gonna see you. I'm gonna see you. With me and you.
No, we're fine. We're cool. I knew even then, though. Like I said, when you were saying that, I wasn't offended by that at all, because I saw the passion that you had for my friend, and I was like, oh, I love that. I love that you guys are like. I was like, we're on the same team.
Yeah.
So
well, thank you, man. We got to thank you for coming out here, clarifying your thing, giving us your time, definitely showing us who you are as a person, not just this online persona and image. So we appreciate you for being open. You get applause and a snap.
Thank you. And you can reach out anytime. If I ever end up saying something else online that you're like, Aaron, that doesn't make sense again, I could be like, oh shit, that's not right.
Yeah, you'll get a keyword perception, dude. Perception.
Yeah, just Instagram me and I can be like, yeah. This is okay. I'll let me get back on the podcast again and explain what I was saying.
Most definitely. Any last things, fellas, before we close out?
I am all good.
Oh well,
I ain't got
as
nothing.
We always do. Coolio.